What is up, Max Ordinate Nation? It is yours truly. And then there's that guy over there, Jeff. What's up, Jeff?
What's up?
So we're back at it today for your regularly scheduled Tuesday episode. I don't know why I always have a problem saying regularly. It's a hard word for me.
Doesn't flow very well.
Yeah, it's just weird. It is Valentine's Day. What better day to talk about guns and men with guns, right? And training and some other random shit. Today we're going to cover down on a few different things. One of them is going to be Guy DeMarco and his stellar performances. He actually sent some videos in to me. He emailed them to me, and he said, roast me or critique me. And he's a friend of mine. Naturally, I'm rubbing my hands together, like getting ready for a deep dive into his skills and see what I come up with. But I watched his videos, and I was smiling and thoroughly surprised. So Guy was a student of mine a few years back. He ended up moving to Florida, and he's been on a chase ever since to constantly get better and be a better shooter. So good to see his commitment. Proud to have a small part in that. I don't want to try to imply full credit. I think we're just a small part in his journey, just like everybody. You know, there's a lot more dedication from the person and the instruction and the instructor, right? Just trying to...
Guy's always been super dedicated. I mean, I remember meeting Guy. Guy's the reason I collect cans, which it's a whole other story.
Right,
but
dude.
he's a can collector. But yeah, his videos, all those, the matches he shoots, the stuff he puts on. I mean, the guy's dedicated, and he really, really spends a lot of time not just going out and shooting, but he spends a lot of time out practicing and really honing his craft. So good on him.
Yeah. So then we have a few more videos for you guys to add to your what not to do Rolodex, to include videos of myself per the request of Jeff to show shooting within the recoil bubble. And I got to pull those up so that we're able to discuss those. And then we're going to bring in a special guest from Ridgeline Defense, kind of talk about a drill that I saw them running on social media that they developed, they came up with. I dig it a lot. I would like to modify it, so we'll see what he says about that. So it'll be a fun episode with the beast of the East meets the best of the West. And if we can manage to keep the show to a decent time, not I'll go in Joe Rogan style on you guys. We'll go into a training topic that revolves around SOPs, or standard operating procedures, aka habits. So Jeff, you ready to get after this?
Let's do it.
All right, man, let's do it. Let me find that motherfucking video, because that is one video I got to throw up there, was me shooting. Probably. Yeah. There we go. Let's see. Downloads. Nope. Shit. I'm gonna fuck this all up. Which one's this? All right, we'll be able to do this one. This will be the Leopold video, show holdovers and shit, and kind of what that recoil bubble is supposed to look like. All right. Okay, man. So the Law Enforcement Basic Cyber course is happening right now. A new format, new schedule, new presentations, new drills. I mean, this course is, I want to say, like, how do we say that the course is 100% different, but still the same?
It's better than ever and upgraded.
So it still follows the program that I have built that has been so successful over the years, but we've updated it with modified schedule, new formatting, different presentations, a little more interaction during the presentations. We got some new drills, new way of recording how these guys shoot. So everything's fucking new. And I feel like every class, every month, every year, I'm always learning new shit. Even if there's not, per se new skills, I'm still learning, right? Learning new methods of doing stuff, new drills that could be beneficial, maybe restructuring how or when we do certain things. So our classes are always evolving. They're always updating. And this is just another piece of that. And if a training group is not updating their training, Jeff, I feel like it's fucking laziness, yep. You can't be running the same shit from, 3, 4, 5 years ago, because you should have been learning during those years, during those processes, to continue to enhance the course, right? So that's definitely something that we follow, is always improving, always updating. So I spent the last few weeks, a lot of late fucking nights, a lot of going back and forth, and then rewatching presentations, making sure everything's good. I am a PowerPoint master. I have all kinds of information and moving things, and dude, I'm telling you what.
I don't know if that's something that you necessarily want to brag about, because that's some pretty nerdcore stuff right there.
I mean, I'm running out of things to brag about, so I have to find something. I will say that I wanted to add videos, and not just videos of like real situations, but I wanted to add like videos of like movie scenes, right? A little bit of attention gainers, but also movie scenes that would apply to what the subject is that we're talking about. So for the law enforcement course, these guys are going to shoot a shit ton of moving targets at our facility. So during the moving target class, I added a video from the movie Shooter, right? It's the opening scene for Shooter where, Marky Mark is laying on a hilltop and he's observing somewhere in Africa, and they got that technical vehicle that's got a gun mounted on it, and he takes a headshot at the dude behind the gun at 900 yards, right? And I freeze the frame so everybody could see what he actually held. And it was 1 mil. He held 1 mil at 900 yards for a moving vehicle on a man. And I'm like, okay. So, I mean, the reason I bring this up is I'm using this video and letting it play, but I'm also having the students at the same time, like, okay, write down everything that's being said. So 900 yards, vehicle moving, 3/4 value, all of this shit. Now I'm taking the wind and spin drift out of it. I'm like, don't worry about wind, don't worry about spin drift, just do the calculation for the mover. And the whole point is I want them to go through the process of what would the actual lead be for that situation versus what you see in the movie. So in the movie, Shooter, he holds 1 mil and he gets a headshot, right? Now I've already been told that Marky Mark did it with a 1 mil lead, so it must have been right. But the math says that 18.7 mils would be your lead. So I don't know who's right. I guess we're going to have to go and try to set this situation up so that we can prove it out.
But I have on good authority that he actually is dialed already for 17.1 mils of wind. So he did not need but 1 yard for that mover.
Okay.
One mil for that mover. That's it.
Fair enough.
He also had an 800 yard zero.
That's right. So, there's a lot of nuances in that video when you look at the gear that's being used. I mean, there's so many questions, and I don't want to get too deep into it. So that's what's been going on. We've got our law enforcement course kicking right now. I'm also preparing for the military course that is coming up in a couple months. We have the tripod and alternate positions courses that we added last minute that have been I think we have like 1 or 2 spots left out of both of those, and they're just 1-day courses. Surprise, I will be there for both of those classes. So I'm making a special trip back to the United States just for these classes. And then Falcor Defense. We got Falcor Defense coming down to Southern California. We'll do some consulting, some product testing, more stuff revolving around their bolt guns. I mean, here's the thing, is like with a bunch of companies, you'll see that they come out with products or they release things or whatever it is, and you're only seeing what's above water, right? You don't see all the work that goes in beneath the surface. And this is one of those things that I like to brag about Falcor Defense, is that, you know, they're flying down from Montana to come to us to bring a bunch of stuff with them so that we can test it, we can play with it, we can, you know, pick it apart and see if everything's good, if there's things that need to be fixed, like, you know. And I love that. I love that their dedication to making sure they're putting out the best product is there. So
yeah, and I love that they're going to continue to work with us again this year on stuff like that. You know, there's a reason why there's always a which Falcor's behind me. Normally it's a bolt gun, but today it's Caitlin.
Caitlin.
You know, they just make great product, and they don't just make something that looks really nice and works kind of well and put it out that they can sell. I mean, they let you beat the ever-loving snot out of what they're going to develop, and you know they're open to whatever corrections need to be made. So by the time it hits market, it's as close to perfection as can be made.
That's true. So, I mean, outside of that, I have no life. I mean, none. I eat, shoot, work, and climb. Oh, and I dive sometimes, right? So I think climbing and diving is kind of my escape from reality of I have no social life. It's severely lacking all substance and positive influence. The only thing I look forward to is I get to see you every week, and that's just, I mean...
Yes, and I'm disappointed we didn't get to see each other 3 times this week because we had a no-show and a cancel for the date for the come on and explain yourself portion of the podcast. I
think part of that might have been my mistake. I'm still trying to figure out the details for that. But we are gonna get that guy on here and have that episode. So I gotta work that out. So you, besides being in the hospital over the weekend, right? Let me make sure I got this right. Because it seems like it's just a cycle for you, right? Which shows your dedication. I see that you've been golfing, and then you're broken, and then you're fixed, kind of, and then you're golfing again, and then we come full circle right back to golfing.
Yep.
Broken, and
then I'm broken again, and then I'm golfing. Yeah. So, and it's the fucking nagging elbow injuries is what's killing me. So I started this get back into shape journey because my health and my fitness has always been sort of one of my top priorities. But you know, rotational injuries are... Golf is, whether people think golf is a sport or not, it's demanding on your T-spine, right? Your hips, your legs, your upper thoracic, your whole T-spine is just hammered. I mean, a human being isn't meant to rotate like that.
Isn't that why Tiger Woods had that?
100%, right? So 2 years ago, I kind of went on this journey of changing my swing to be fit for more of what's appropriate for me. And doing great. Back feels phenomenal. Lots of, upper thoracic work, some hip mobility stuff. And then I get this fucking nagging elbow injury that is only getting worse because of the remodel I'm doing myself instead of ponying up and hiring a fucking contractor to do shit like hang a sheet of drywall. No, I got to do it myself.
Yeah.
And it goes back to square one every time I injure it. So I was at shockwave treatment this morning.
Well, you should be ready to go for this podcast and all the physical effort that it takes.
Yeah, I know.
All right, before we get to some of these videos, I have to bring this up. There was I mean, over the past week, I have come across so many things that I want to share. We just don't have the time on this show.
Yeah.
But I got to give a shout out to Nemo Arms. Like, holy shit. When you sell out to get someone with a little bit of fame to rep your shit, but they know nothing about the products that you sell, it's like,
I love it.
It's, you know, it's truly a work of art. So if you guys get a chance, go check out Nemo Arms on social media and maybe peruse around their account a little bit and see if you know what I'm talking about. I mean, once you find it, you cannot miss it, right? So, all right, here we are. I have the first video of Guy DeMarco. I'm going to share my screen. I've got some notes written down for here. All right, do you see Guy?
I do.
Right. So what I got here is, this is Guy DeMarco. He's shooting off of this cattle door, this cattle gate, right? And I was really looking hard for anything that he could have been doing wrong. And I had to watch really close because he's doing really well. It's not like he's just blatantly just sucking. Like, I enjoyed watching him shoot. So I'm going to play the video and then I'll talk about my notices afterwards. Here we go.
Find the target, look in the scope.
I don't know if you heard that. He said, find the target, look in the scope.
Impact! Impact! Impact!
So what I love about it is that, you know, we're always preaching like shoulder the rifle, but look over the rifle, acquire the target, and adjust your body, then look through the scope. And you can hear him talking about that, like find the target, look through the scope. So it was really awesome how he did that, how he's talking about it. The only thing I picked out from his first position was, if I look really close at his trigger press, his first trigger press was solid. He presses, there's zero movement afterwards, but then his second press, it gets a little lazier. And then his third press is even lazier. And what I mean by that is he's pressing, but he's allowing his finger to come off the trigger. And it looks like he's almost, you know, I don't know if he is. Obviously, I can't see what he sees, but it looks like he's on target and press, right? So he looks like he's timing the shots. There might be some movement in his position. So his second position, he's a tall dude, so I can imagine how this is a awkward position for him. I don't know what's going on here with his rifle, but I can't see his firing arm. So I don't really know what he's doing with his firing arm.
Impact!
His non-firing arm. If he's using it to brace that vertical bar, I don't know. But if he isn't, that is definitely something that needs to be implemented, is in engaging that vertical support. Deliberate placement of the bag is a plus. If you notice, he pulls his rifle down, he's got his bag, and he sets the bag almost deliberately so that it keeps you from having to mess with it later if it doesn't settle the way that you wanted, right? So on one hand, you deliberately place the bag, and yeah, it's going to take time. But then if you don't do that and the bag doesn't settle the way you want, you're going to waste time anyway fixing it. So you might as well do it right the first way. And then his third position. I'm not a fan of the position that he chose. If you can see it, I feel like a person of his size, he could have been more stable having a knee up and supporting that firing elbow. Again, he cleaned it. He did well. It was a solid run. I have no issues whatsoever with what he did. I don't know what the size of the targets are, so I kind of wrote this down in my notes. If those targets were 1 MOA in size, would he still have chosen that position? Would he feel comfortable with the stability of that position to still take those shots?
Yeah, and I think he may have gamed it from, because you can see where he's almost testing his first shot on each position and realizing that he's stable enough to kind of speed up a little bit, if you will. And so maybe once he got down to the third position, he had enough confidence in either the wind, the environment, whatever it was, where he could kind of not necessarily have to put himself in a. He may have given up a little bit of stability for speed. I don't know what the parameters in the match was, but all in all, it was a clean run though. I mean, I like that his first and second position leg lockouts, and it's kind of something that I do. That standing versus that sort of crouched, that weird second position. I do the same thing where my leg positions are nearly identical. I think it was a pretty clean run.
Yeah, I mean, it was solid. He cleaned it. So there was one thing I saw in the third position. I can see some slight movements in the barrel. So he'll cycle the bolt, and then it looks like he has to like muscle his upper body to raise it so that he's moving that muzzle down. So I feel like his natural point of aim might be a little high over the target, and he's having to use his chest and his upper body to try to kind of bring that muzzle down. And again, that just comes into the position that he chose. But overall, I mean, I love his effort. His pace was solid. It didn't look like he was getting flustered or racing. I think he went through that stage pretty fast. I don't know any of the details about this stage. I don't know the time. I don't know the target size. I don't know anything other than here's this video, tell me what I'm doing wrong.
I also like that he can run the bolt faster, but he ran the bolt smooth at an appropriate pace to not get misses.
Yeah. So these are very small details, right? And we're just nitpicking, but when you're trying to constantly get better, these are the small details that need to be polished out, right? And again, I'm not him, so this is just an outside view looking in. He might have answers to some of the questions, like why did you choose that position, right? But I mean, you can see he's in a double kneeling right now. At the end of the video, you can see he's in a double kneeling, and again, I feel like he would have been a little more stable, a little more structured support if he would have gone with a single knee up to try to support that elbow, but I could be wrong.
And maybe he tried it and it was just a little too high where it wasn't going to work for him. Like, we don't know.
Yeah. So the second video, he's shooting off of another cattle grate, or maybe it's not a cattle grate. Let's see. What does that look like to you? Does that look like a bumper to some type of semi-truck?
Looks like a cattle bumper.
Yeah. So I'm not really sure what it is, but press play here. There's three positions. There's a left, a middle, and a right. And I got some notes here. So left position, good target acquisition. He looks over the scope. He's got bone support. Looks like he established his natural point of aim right from the beginning.
No, I'll set it down.
He's about to start.
Shooter ready?
Big, small, big.
Big, small, big, move. Stand by.
So he gets down in position, rifle down, acquires the target naked eye, and then he looks through the scope. Perfect. He's still having some kind of issue with feeding. I'm not sure what the problem is. But he's got that bone support right now. It looks good.
Impact.
Recoil management's there. I mean,
Impact.
you don't see that rifle move at all. I don't know what caliber he's shooting, but he looks good.
Impact.
Move to the middle position. Perfect. You can see he moves his body, he adjusts, he kind of gets that general natural point of aim, and then we've only got one guy that has in front of the video. What the heck?
course.
So he's taking his time. He's not excessively racking the bolt. It's a good look, man. And he gets to the right position. The only thing I can pick up on, and I'm going to pause it here, and I'm going to jump back a little bit, is pay attention to once he finds the target and he looks through the scope, I can see he kind of moves, and he's only moving his upper body. He doesn't move his feet. He just shifts his upper body, and his feet stay planted. So again, I'm kind of like armchair quarterbacking here. From my point of view, though, it looks like he's making that final movement to muscle the gun onto the target here. So watch. I'll put him back on the right side, okay, and just kind of watch his upper body shift, and it looks like it's more of a muscle movement than it is a natural point of aim movement. Right there. You see it?
Impact. Impact. Impact.
And that's it. That's another clean run for him. So again, we're nitpicking here. I'm also being an armchair quarterback. But I thought most of his stuff was good, right? And for that last position I was talking about, it might have just been a small amount of foot movement that was needed, but he didn't do that. He just moved his upper body. I wasn't in the scope, so again, I don't know, right? He cleaned it. He did a good job. But again, just nitpicking and trying to foster improvement, no matter how small those improvements could be. That is the only thing that I could pick out where I'm like, oh, what's that? All right. Why did he make that movement at the end without actually moving other parts of his body? So, I mean, outside of that, I think people will be like, he didn't miss. How are you going to pick on him? Like, I'm not picking on him. I'm just giving him tips.
No, and somebody at his level, you know, it's those little nuanced things that need to be fixed. That'll kind of just take him to the next level, I guess.
It is, man. It is.
It's not like he's some new shooter that needs, you know, we're critiquing everything. I mean, these are little tiny pedantic things that for him and us matter, for the general population, I guess, in some cases won't.
Yeah. All right. So this next video that we're going to show you, I labeled the topic, holy hell, he must be using magic bullets. And the reason I threw this in there is because when he actually presses the trigger, he's not really on the target, but he still hits the target. And I cut the video down. I cropped it so that you only see what he sees through the scope. But he set up his tripod. He dialed his scope. He ranged the target. He did all of these things. So he should be aiming with the center crosshair and just holding for wind. He did not dial his wind in there. And it is a very interesting video. I'm going to press play now. Can you see the screen?
I can.
All right. So I actually put it in slow motion so that
It's giving me a seizure.
I mean, that is where he pressed the shot, right there. So, first, he's using a trigger cam. He's got a trigger cam on his scope, and what you can see is that the reticle looks blurry, and you can see everything else really clear. So that tells me something optically is not set up correctly. It's probably a parallax error because the camera is focused on what is a majority of your field of view, which is the downrange area and the targets. So if that's the focus point of the camera and your reticle is out of focus, that tells me that there's a parallax problem. But look at where the crosshair is when he presses the shot. How the fuck he hit this target?
Yeah, and you know, unless his what he dialed is just completely fucked up, they're magic bullets, bro.
They're magic bullets. So,
or he's timing the shit out of that unstable position that he has.
I mean, the dude's trigger press is platinum level. I mean, his bone support, his natural point of aim, everything is fucked up. But his trigger press is on point. Minus the he's not anywhere on the target when it comes to the vertical. I'm just going to play it again so we all get muted. He did hit the target.
Yes, he did.
Because the reticle is so blurry, I can't really pick out how big that target is. It looks like it's a decent size. Like it could be, over 2 MOA target size.
Yeah.
A little bit bigger than that. Again, I can't really read the reticle, so I'm not entirely sure how big that target is. But I think I did write in my notes here that Jeff, how do you make yourself look like a good tripod shooter? Which is make the target bigger, of course.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that is the way. For all of you guys who want to boost your social media and make everybody think that you're really good at something that you're really not, you just make it bigger, right? Make the target bigger so you get that ding at the end and everybody's like, oh, wow, I hit that target, right? But if you're watching that video, one, he's got his natural point of aim is off to the right. And that happens with a lot of shooters because if you're a right-handed shooter, you typically find that if you don't fine-tune your natural point of aim, you're going to be off to the right because your upper body becomes bladed to the rifle. And then his vertical movement is just all over the place because he lacks any type of vertical structure. He has no bone support built. I mean, all in all, he's muscling the shit out of that gun to move it to the left to aim at the target. And then his bone support is so bad that he's just getting this death jump up and down, that his trigger press has to be on an epic level just to make that shot, right? It's crazy. And I'm glad that we could show a video like that. If that's what your look through the scope looks like, you need more practice. That's it. There's no other way around it. You need to go back to the fundamentals and you need to really focus on build that bone support, get that natural point of aim, and try to eliminate how much muscle use that you have because that is just not satisfactory. All right, the final video that I have of a shooter is, where did I put it? Let me see here. Where did it go? Aha, here we go. All right. This is your favorite video. You remember this one?
I do.
All right. So this guy is shooting a 338 Lapua.
Love it.
And it's with a training company. He is being trained to go on a hunt to shoot from a tripod. I think the company's out of Arizona or something like that. I don't know if I know them. Maybe I've met them in passing. I'm not sure. But wow, I don't know what else to say, Jeff. Let's just watch. He's going to play. There we go. Is it playing?
I don't know.
Play.
You broke it. You broke it.
I did break it. What is going on here? I can't get the video to play. Yeah, it's just not loading for me right now.
Well, I mean, these things happen.
Well,
We're live. This is what happens.
Everybody. We just saved everybody. So what ends up happening is he's on.
It makes my shoulder hurt watching that thing.
I mean, he's got probably, I don't know, he's got to have like 1 to 2 inches of movement on that rifle. And there's so much movement that the rifle kicks back and his hand completely loses the grip, the trigger, everything. I mean, he ends up almost holding the mag well. And it's unbelievable. Like, you gotta vet the people that you're training with, right?
Yeah.
Because nowadays, I mean, this is a problem. Tripod shooting became a thing to do, right? First it was oh, I want to shoot long range. I want to be a sniper. And then, snipers are shooting off tripods. So now I got to learn how to shoot off a tripod. And then you get random people who don't understand the mechanics of shooting off of a tripod. So the method is, let me go buy a really right stuff tripod. I'm going to go shoot off of it for the Instagram and the Facebook. It's hip, it's cool. I'm going to teach it to people, even though I have zero fucking skills to teach it. I don't understand the mechanics behind it, and it's sad, right?
And this is for everyone. If you've never shot off a tripod and you're going to go out and start learning, which you should, don't just go out and spend $1,000 on a tripod and assume that this is the tripod to have. I can shoot off of a $100 tripod just as well for what I'm doing because my mechanics and my fundamentals are sound. That $1,000 tripod is just going to mask a lot of problems. And to be fair, they're probably not going to do it very well because it's just a tripod.
It's just a tripod. Yeah. I mean, it's a scary thing, man. I'm still upset the video won't play. Well, whatever.
All right. So tripod shooting. What's your one common most seen mistake on tripod shooters?
One most common seen mistake. I'd probably say it starts with what height that they set the tripod up at. A lot of people will set the tripod either extremely too low or extremely too high. And from all the years of teaching tripod, I've started to notice, and I used to be like this, right? Again, I had to learn over time. And you'll see people still do it today. Well, they will mark their tripod legs. So like, oh, I have my tripod legs marked for the standing position. And it's like, okay, cool. But that only works when you're shooting off of flat ground, right? That only works if the target is at the same straight angle in front of you as when you mark the tripod legs. But if anything changes, if the ground changes, if the target angle changes, then that tripod's not going to work anymore. You're going to be out of position. So what I started to do a few years ago was you build the tripod height to the position that you want to be in. So if I want to be in a standing or a kneeling or a seated, I'm going to get into that position and then I'm going to set my tripod up to the height that fits the position I want to be in, right? A tripod, the benefits are it will adjust to whatever position you want to be in. So why would you not set it up to be in a perfect position for you? Why would you fight the tripod? So I'd say probably the most common and the first mistake people make is that they set their tripod up and then they're trying to adapt their body to that shooting position versus making the tripod fit the position they're in. So I'd say that's number one. And we could probably go down a rabbit hole, but we won't. We'll just leave it at build the tripod to fit your position.
Yeah, that was going to be my answer too. The setting up the tripod and then adjusting your position to it is probably the most common mistake that I see. Mostly in seated positions. It's usually too high in standing, but in seated positions, they'll set it up and then just try to configure themselves to this little yoga squat Hindi sit that to try to get to this tripod. And I'm like, man, just bring that fucking tripod to you and build it around you.
Yeah. Just adjust it, dude. It moves.
Yeah.
But yeah, man.
All right. Good info.
All right. So one of our main events here is to talk with Alex from Ridgeline Defense. And we're going to take a moment here. We'll be right back. I'm going to get him in on the show and then we will move on.
Sweet.
All right. Let me figure out how to invite this guy here.
You do that. I'm going to try.
All right. Here's what we're going to do while we're waiting on Alex to jump on here and click the link. I think he was waiting for us and we just got to talking too much. Here's what we're going to do. We are going to show the video of me shooting. This is from one of our PowerPoint slides. and you can get an idea of what the recoil management is that I'm talking about when I say 1 mil bubble. So here is a video of me shooting the loopholed holdover target that we created, and I'm demoing this target. I'm shooting a 6XC, so it's a 6 millimeter. It's similar to a 6 Creedmoor, so not a ton of recoil. And we're just going to watch, right? And we'll talk about things I might be doing right, things I might be doing wrong. So share my screen here. Let's see. Here we are. Oh, there we go. Okay. Can you see the PowerPoint?
I can.
All right. Let me see if I can make it bigger. Can you still see it?
I can, but my stupid thing. Yep, we're good.
All right. So I'm going to press play here. So watch my reticle, top right of the screen. I get centered. Stay there. Done. So I went up and left about
Now set the turret back.
in each direction. 0.4 in each direction. So that was the clip right there. Now, if you were to watch the entire drill goes like that, where you can see every shot. It's not like I don't have any movement. I have movement. I'm well within that 1 mil bubble, and
Yeah,
that's what we're looking for. So
yeah, and I just thought it was important for people to see what that looked like. It's not that we're saying that you can't have any movement in your reticle. It's that there's a bubble you should stay within, and I thought it was important for people to see what it looked like.
yeah, absolutely. So I have another video of me shooting a different drill. So this is the natural point of aim drill. Okay. And the reason I want to show this one is it shows that I'm kind of hovering on the fringe area of that 1 mil bubble. And we can talk about why and what things are happening to cause me to have that fringe where I'm kind of like at the limit. So here we go. Okay. Oh, I got to share it. Share. Can you see the video?
Yes.
All right, so I'm going to hit play here. All right, so now you can see I'm on the natural point of aim target. I'm getting settled. Right, and this is a shot taken with your eyes closed, so I can't even tell what's happening right now. I just know that I got to do everything perfect, but you're probably going to see the reticle jump up about 1 mil. About 1.2. 1.2. So I'm right on the fringe of that 1 mil bubble, right? I'm just outside of where I want to be. I'm going to take another shot, and this is all part of that natural point of aim drill. Settle down, breathe, eyes closed. And again, it's up, straight up, slightly right that time, 1.1 mil. Okay. So what is the issue? That's the question, right? Like, why am I going 1 mil high on every one of those shots? And it's consistent, right? And on one side, I'm happy that it's consistent. Every shot is pretty much straight up, and it's straight up 1 mil. I'm not happy that I'm breaking the 1 mil line. My eyes are also closed, so making corrections and stuff like that is a little more difficult, especially when I'm trying to run the natural point of aim video or the drill itself. But here's what's causing the problem. If you watch the video, you'll notice that I'm running MDT bipods, but they are the short version, and I don't have them extended at all. So they're in their lowest configuration, and the rifle is just sitting too low for me, right? It's not high up on that collarbone where it should be. It's sitting a tad bit low. So what's happening is every shot that buttstock is sinking a little bit, right? And it's just enough to get me outside of that 1 mil bubble by, a couple tenths. So if you notice the holdover drill, I obviously fixed my position, but for that drill, my position was trash. My buttstock placement was not where it needed to be, and that's what was causing me to have that muzzle rise, right? And on top of that was how I have control of the rear bag and how I'm gripping the stock, right? So there's a lot of things that I can nitpick about this, but ultimately in the end, like I broke the 1 mil bubble and it came down to buttstock placement and how I was manipulating the rear bag in the back, right? So that will hopefully, show you that not everybody is perfect, including myself. And I'm not afraid to nitpick on myself either. I'm trying to dig up a few videos of me shooting positional. I think I have a few. I just got to dig through some of the media that we have and kind of show when I'm on a barricade or some type of alternate position, what does my recoil look like? And it looks the same. I mean, I'm still going to have slight movement in some direction, but my ultimate goal is that I have enough recoil management that I'm only getting, a few tenths of movement, maybe 0.4 or 0.5. And that's what I want, is that consistency and that ability to stay on target throughout the entire process. So there. You happy now that you got to see what you wanted to see?
I'm extremely happy.
You should be. You should be extremely happy. So I sent Alex a message. He has not read it yet, so I'm not entirely sure where he is.
Maybe he's pooping.
He could be pooping. I believe we are about 30 minutes behind when I told him we would try to get him onto the show. So what we can do is we will save it until he can come back. If he gets our message or if he's able to jump on. But we can jump ahead, Jeff, and we can talk about the training topic, which what I picked for today was standard operating procedures. Okay.
Perfect.
So I refer to them a lot as habits. And either way, it's a method of doing certain things that allow you to basically operate on autopilot, right? It's a subconscious action. And a lot of the times I try to refer in the classes back to things people do every single day, right? So one of those most basic things that we all do every single day is that we get into our vehicles, right? Now, if it's your vehicle, let me ask you this question. I'm not talking about your Tesla because it doesn't even have a fucking key.
It's my wife's Tesla.
Right? Talking about your truck, which uses a key, if I'm not mistaken. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
It does.
So when you get into your truck, you climb into the seat, right? You settle down, you shimmy, you do whatever fucking technique that you have. But do you have to watch the key go into the keyhole, or do you know where that shit's at?
It's on autopilot.
It's on autopilot, right? It's subconscious thought. You wear a seatbelt?
I do.
Not trying to get you pinched by the
No, I did.
but you reach back, you grab the seatbelt, and boom, you clip that shit, right? And 9 times out of 10, you don't have to look to where that seatbelt is. Same thing with the gas pedal, the brake. Like, all of these things because you've sat in those vehicles for how many hours, and it's now just become a repetitive cycle. So that would be a habit, right? Now, how do we turn that into a standard operating procedure? Well, we can look at what method do you employ, right? How do you, as you build these habits over time, you end up doing them in a way where they're on autopilot. So typically anything that is an autopilot or a subconscious action, it will be done a very thorough or specific manner, right? Almost like a checklist. Like, okay, I get into the truck, I put the key in, start the truck, I reach back, I grab my seatbelt, I put the seatbelt on, and then I shift that baby into gear, right? So that's a process. If you were to do it out of order, then your body would have to start thinking about okay, I just put my seatbelt on, but I haven't put the key in yet. Oh yeah, I've got to start the truck, right? So 9 times out of 10, your SOPs or your standard operating procedures for anything that you do, right? There's a specific order that allows you to do that without thinking. So how do we apply that to our shooting? Well, there's a few notable SOPs that we can dig into. The first one's going to be malfunctions, right? And you have a type 1 malfunction, which is click, no bang, whether it's a dead primer or it's an empty chamber, whatever it is, you press the trigger and there was no reaction from the cartridge, right? The bullet did not exit the muzzle. It didn't go bang. It didn't do anything. And what's your immediate action for that? Well, if you are shooting a bolt gun, you cycle the bolt. If you are shooting a gas gun, then you're supposed to do what, Jeff?
Supposed to tap and rack.
Tap and rack, right? So make sure that mag's seated, rack the bolt, and then sight in and attempt to fire. But if you are not trained to that level to react that way, then typically what will happen is you'll press the trigger, you'll hear the click, and everybody that is not familiar with doing a type 1 fix will move their head around,
start looking,
and look at the chamber or the ejection port like, why is it not working? Right? So your habit right now is you are playing curious kitty. Why is my gun not shooting? When in reality, you should just be getting into your immediate action of getting that rifle back up and ready to shoot. And one of these perfect examples was Vanessa. She was at the Christensen Combatives long range match over the last weekend. And she's been getting into reloading. And she reloaded her own ammo, and she forgot to put primers in 3 or 4 of her rounds.
I think it was just 3 of them, yeah.
And they just magically happened to end up all in the same mag stacked on top of each other. So she's aimed in at the target. I wasn't there. These are just reports that I'm getting. And she takes a shot, click. She cycles a bolt, click. She cycles a bolt, click. And she's just like, I'm just going to keep doing this until it actually does what it's supposed to do. So she just kept going through, right? At any point in time, she could have just looked and saw what was going on, but that's not the method that she's been trained in. She's been trained to work through the problem without breaking her position and, fix a type 1. So that's an SOP. That's a standard operating procedure. Another one is a type 2 malfunction where you have a double feed. You could have a double feed with a gas gun. You could have a double feed with a bolt gun. There's a process to fix them, right? And what you don't want to happen is that you lose time. So as a competitor, if you have one of these malfunctions, time is important, right? If you are military, if you're law enforcement, then these mistakes could cost you or somebody around you cost their lives, right? So it's important that if a double feed or some type of obstruction happens where you can't cycle around, that you just go into fixing that malfunction, right? You get down behind cover, you rip that magazine out, you clear the obstruction, you cycle the bolt, you put a new mag in, and 10 seconds later, you're back in the fight and you're sending rounds downrange. So that is another situation where you have to train to that standard, or when it happens, you are not going to be ready. And that's just the nature of the beast, right? If you have to think about it, then you've lost all awareness of everything else around you. So another one is mag changes, right? How to actually practice mag changes with a bolt gun. Everybody does it with a pistol, right? That seems to be a thing where you're sitting there and you're dry firing and you're like, let me get that motion right. Let me make sure that I'm
one reload one for Instagram.
Right?
One reload one for Instagram.
Yeah, exactly. How come nobody does that with their bolt gun? It's just not
Nobody
important,
does.
I guess, right? Yep. People will just shoot and shoot and shoot until their mag is empty, and then they'll fire on an empty chamber, and now they realize that their fucking gun is not loaded, and then they go through their mag change process, and it's not pretty, it's not smooth, and they just wasted time, right? So mag changes is another SOP for military law enforcement and even competitors, right? Gear and equipment, i.e. what's your rifle set on? And this is a big one that we focus on in the law enforcement classes is what is your team or your unit or your department's SOP for how you carry your rifle around in your patrol car? I've seen everything, Jeff. I have seen guys whose rifle is just in the back. It's in like a truck vault or some kind of storage. You just open the drawer, you grab your rifle, and it's got a magazine inserted, but the bolt is run over the top of the magazine, so the chamber is empty. I have seen it where guys are required to carry their sniper rifles in Pelican cases. So when we run the deployment drill, they got to pull their Pelican case out. They got to open all the latches. They got to pull their gun out. They got to put their bipods on. Like, it's a fucking mess, right? What's your scope set on? And I bring this one up because it's obviously situational dependent, but for a law enforcement guy, is it on 0, right? Are you at your 100-yard 0? When you pull your rifle out of the car, it should be on whatever setting is your SOP. That way you know that your rifle is ready to go. For a military guy, we all 0 at 100. But if you're in actual combat operations and you're about to leave friendly lines and go on a combat patrol or go on some type of mission, you're not set for 100-yard 0. You're set for basically your battle 0, your combat dope, right? So for me, every time I left friendly lines in Afghanistan, my rifle was set to 2 mils because I basically wanted my effective threat ring against the enemy to be 400 yards. Anything 400 to roughly 430 yards or closer, if we were going to get hit and I was going to return fire, it was just going to be me putting crosshairs on bodies and letting it rip. I wasn't going to have to think about what distance they are or any of that shit, right? Just if you're inside 430 yards, you're getting one. And that was it, right? So that's a SOP that we had in our team, was all our scopes would be set to 2 mils. So how is your gear packed up? How are you carrying your gear? Is it strapped across your back? Is it strapped across your ruck? Like, these are all things that we establish procedures for so that we know how to operate with them, right? We know what to expect. We know how to train. We know how to practice, right? So you're developing habits, right? For the competitive side, for competitors, for running a PRS stage, you also have standard operating procedures. And not to bring up Vanessa again, but I had asked her a question after the match because she had a stage, Jeff, where she had 3 targets. And her plan going into this stage was, I'm going to dial for the first target. I'm going to hold for the second target. And then I'm going to dial for the third target, right? So check it out. And she only did this because the third target was so much further than the first 2 that it made sense for her to dial that third target, right? So she got her stuff. The buzzer goes off. She gets down in position. She shoots at the first target. She misses. She goes to the second target. She does her holdover. She misses. She dials for the third target. She finally gets a hit. And now she's finally where she should be, where she's getting hits and things like that. But what happened with those first 2 targets? Well, what happened was she broke her procedures. She did not dial her dope on her rifle prior to the stage starting because she didn't follow her process, right? She got distracted. She started thinking about, well, what gear do I need? What's the wind doing? And all of that is fine. Those are all things that you should be thinking about. But you should have a method of how you get yourself prepared. And if you break that method, then you're going to start to find yourself in trouble because you're going to start forgetting things. And that's exactly what she did. She didn't dial. So her first shot, she was on 0. And then when she held over for the second target, it was still a miss because she didn't have the dope set from the first target. So that cost her points, right? She was 11th place in this competition. She was 4 points away from being 10th place, right? Her first top 10 finish. And she blew it because procedures failed her, right? She did not stick to her procedures. So I'm telling you guys right now, when all of the shit around you is happening, your SOPs are what keeps everything together. It allows you to function and think about things that are important while allowing your body to go through the motions and do what doesn't need to be thought about.
Yeah, there's certain things that we want to be on autopilot so we can focus on other things that are more important, right? And this isn't just for law enforcement, competition, hunters. I mean, it's for everybody. And it's not just a lot of people think of these procedures, writing down things in your books and all these checklists as, quote unquote, new shooter type stuff. Well, no, that's how experienced shooters stay at the top of their game, because they have these SOPs.
Yeah.
And we can focus on the things we need to focus on when those things come up. I mean, I think a good example is, for whether it's reloads, mag changes, or whatever, I make, guys that hunt with me at night, if they're going to use their own rifle, then, they need to be able to manipulate that entire rifle literally in the dark, which means you develop an SOP to run those mag changes, the reloads, the malfunctions, feeding an open bolt, develop your procedures to be able to do that. So you can focus on things like not losing track of that coyote that you're trying to track through your scope while you're trying to reload. If the other stuff's on autopilot, then you can spend time focusing on tracking the coyote.
Yeah. Hey, I'm happy you brought that up about nighttime stuff. That's a big one that we do with law enforcement and with the military guys. Is a lot of your operations are going to be at night, so you have to be able to perform these SOPs without being able to see, right? You have to rely on feel. So when we do brass checks with bolt guns, we lift the bolt, we slide the bolt back, and we reach in and we feel if there's a round in the chamber.
Mm-hmm.
Your gas gun, you put your mag in, you send your bolt forward, and then you pull your mag out to feel if the rounds have changed sides in double stack magazines, right? So these are things that we do to ensure that the gun is loaded in the middle of darkness. On the hunter side of things, right, and you can chime in on this, but it's kind of a mix between military, law enforcement, and competition, right? Knowing your gear, the method to ensure that you're going to get the hit, right? That you're going to be able to, find the animal and then go through your process to engage and not forget something, right? Not like when you're going to hunt, this is fucking real shit. This is business, right? It's not, let me take a shot and hope that I do everything right. Like, you should be taking this very seriously, because if you are only wounding that animal, that's fucking wrong, right?
Yeah, and there's nothing that makes me more ill than knowing I smoked a coyote and I can't find him.
Yeah. So for your SOPs as a hunter, right, you gotta, there's no, don't let me say, I don't want to say this. There is wrong ways to do shit, but for the most part, you can establish your own method of what your process looks like. You just need to make sure that you practice that process and that you go through the steps so that you don't forget things. So, for example, Jeff, we're sitting in the bed of your truck, and we start glassing, right? There's probably a process or a method to the madness for you in terms of how's your rifle set up? What's your tripod position? Is your magazine already in your gun? And then you find a coyote, you range it, you grab your rifle, you go through your steps, right? You dial your dope, you look at what the wind is doing, or, any of these things. Like, there is a process. Now, some of this stuff might not apply. For example, wind. If you're taking a shot at a coyote from a tripod at 100 or less yards, let's be honest, there's not a wind call that we're really making here. But you get what I'm saying. Like, the process for a hunter needs to be solidified so that you can focus on taking a good shot and actually getting a kill. So,
yeah. And the point is the common theme right now you're starting to see is SOPs are universal for every discipline. You need SOPs to be good in your field, whatever it is you're doing. I mean, some of the stuff that I pulled from, law enforcement, which is, putting a bonded bullet in from my shell holder over the top of a loaded mag. There was a whole SOP that we had to do that. Well, that's really similar to what I've developed to a particular rifle I have, which just does not like to feed bullets, and I have to feed them on an open chamber. So
Yeah.
Every discipline has SOPs that you have to develop them to be successful.
Absolutely. So if you want to be cool under pressure, if you want to be calm, and I remember we had, that one listener who asked, like, Tyler, how are you so calm under pressure? It's because I have practiced these repetitions over and over and over and over again to the point where, like, I'm not stressed out when things happen because I'm just working through the problem the way that I have practiced. So you need these habits to support what you want your abilities to be. This even flows down to actual shooting for SOPs and habits such as getting into position, natural point of aim, bone support, breathing, focusing on the reticle, target acquisition. Like, all of these things are habits that you build. And if you don't build them, then you will forget to do one of them, right? But we watch Guy DeMarco. We watch his videos. Every single time he drives that rifle up, places it against his body, he's in position. But what's the first thing he's doing? He's looking over the scope, he's acquiring the target, and he's moving his body to get that general natural point of aim. That's a habit. That's an SOP that he's built. And then bone support. Breathing is a big one, right? I said in a previous episode, breathing, if you get stressed or if you are focused on time or anything that starts to affect your internal vibe, breathing is going to go out the window. So when do we practice these? Well, you practice them when you're dry firing. You practice them when you go to the range and you get live fire in, right? You should always be looking at what habits are you building. That's why there's some things that people do. And here's a really good example, Jeff. Getting into position, for me, is a standard operating procedure, right? It's a habit that I want to be perfect. And so I'll see some of my military students where one guy is the shooter and he's laying behind his rifle, he's looking down range, he's in the prone position, right? And his spotter is also behind a different rifle, looking down range, being prepared to spot for him. But the difference is the guy who's shooting, he's got a good position. His body's in alignment. He's directly behind the rifle. He's going to have good recoil management. The spotter, his body is crooked. He's off to the side. And I'll come over. I'll be like, what are you doing? And he'd be like, what? I'm spotting. I'm like, why are you not building the habit of being behind your rifle the way you're supposed to? You are building a bad habit right now. Mm-hmm. Fix yourself. Like, any time that you have the ability to do the right thing, just do the right fucking thing, because you're always building habits and you're going to start to build bad ones if you don't watch it. So brass checking is a big one, making sure that you actually are loaded. I can't stress enough the importance of SOPs, building good habits. Make sure you test your SOPs. This is a big one. Test your habits and your standard operating procedures to ensure that they actually work the way that you think they're going to work. A big one would be, like the guys that carry med kits. You carry a med kit.
Oh God, that drives me crazy.
And it's like, it could be, guys that are on the gram or Facebook, and they're like, this is me. I'm going to deploy my tourniquet on myself. And, he thinks that he has thought about every solution, every situation. So he's got his med kit and it's on his, it's on his backside or wherever you put your med kit. And then, he practices this method of pulling his tourniquet out and putting it on his arm and going through the motions, but then that one time where a situation that he didn't fully test his SOPs happens, and now he can't get to that fucking med kit, right? It's nowhere to be found because for whatever reason, he's not capable, and now you're fucked, right? So you have to also apply a little bit of pressure to your SOPs and make sure that they will actually work in multiple situations for yourself, right? So one of our listener questions, Jeff, is asking about methods for mag changing on a bolt gun. So I would like to do a video for this, and we'll post it up on our Patreon account, and all of our VIP members will get an idea of like the mag changes. But to kind of dumb it down, well, I don't want to say dumb it down, but to kind of put it into words without a visual aid, I would say with precision rifle shooting nowadays, right? You could find yourself in all kinds of weird positions. You could be on a tripod, you could be on an alternate position, you could be in the prone. And the thing about building SOPs and habits is that you don't want them to be different from position to position to position. You want them to be the same. If they're not the same, then it means you have to think about it. So we don't want to think about it. When it comes time to change mags, we want to just go through the motions. So I would say that because of that simple fact that you don't know what position you might find yourself in, your mag change should be conducted with your non-firing hand. And it's going to do two things for you. One, it's going to create consistency. It's going to allow you to keep your firing hand on the rifle and have control regardless of the position that you're in. And then you'll actually, with your left eye, you'll be able to see the mag well. So you pull that mag out and you go to put that mag in, you'll be able to see the mag well that you're trying to put that new magazine in. He asked about indexing. And, you know, when it comes to like pistol reloading or you know, AR-15, stuff like that, like there's a method of indexing where you're using probably an index finger, right? I grab my pistol mag and I bring it up and my index finger is helping me guide to that pistol mag well. Well, you can do the same thing with the bolt gun, but I like using my thumb. So I'll grab my bolt gun mag and I've got this like grip on it and I got my thumb. So my thumb is coming up and feeling the side of the mag well so that I'm guiding into position, and then I can press it in and pull and make sure that it's seated. So you can use your index finger, right? And I'm sure there's other methods that you can do to index so that you can make sure that magazine's going where you want it and you can kind of create that smooth motion. Ultimately, I want to stay on the gun. If I'm a competitive shooter, if I'm a hunter, and for whatever reason I got to go through a mag change, nobody's shooting back at me. So seeking cover and doing a mag change is not something that I'm thinking about. Whereas if I'm law enforcement or military, I need to get the fuck down and do a mag change and then get back into the fight, right? So if I have the option, I would choose to keep my position, stay consistent, not break any fundamentals that I've already established, and just do the mag change and then get back into it, right? You got anything to add on the art of replacing a magazine?
Not really. What I will say is I'm sort of the do not do, or at least I have to build some specific habits that are some SOPs that are specific to me, because as you know, I own a lot of different systems and I shoot with a lot of different stuff, and to my detriment, my habits can kind of get out of whack with what gun I'm shooting. So, you know, they say fear the man with one rifle. Well, I'm not that guy. So I really have to, you know, my SOPs for mag changes work for all of my rifles because they all have different mag wells. So the way I index them is a little unique, which is probably slower, but it's consistent for each one. So just, you know, I think going back to what I said earlier, or what we talked about earlier, which is just for me to learn a good SOP for mag changes is lay down behind your rifle, close your eyes, and change that mag 100 times until something in your head clicks to what works.
I like it. All right. I have not heard back from Alex.
Okay.
I don't know where he's at. I think we might have pushed our timeline a little too much.
My beautiful wife knew that we were taking so long that she snuck me a cup of coffee.
She's so awesome. So awesome. What I do want to do is I still want to play the video.
Yeah, let's play it. I think it's a great, I want to see it just from talking to you. I think it's a great drill.
As soon as I saw it, I was like, man, we got to put this on the podcast. You know, I'm not picking on them. I like the drill, and I'm just trying to modify it so that it'll fit what I want to do. So here's what the drill is. It's a 3-second par time with a gas gun I believe it's with a 66% IPSC. Is that what he wrote here in his messages? Let's see here. So it's a minimum, minimum 12-inch circle, a maximum of a BC zone on a IPSC target.
Okay.
That's the standard. 12-inch target minimum or a BC zone on an IPSC target. 300 yards or 300 meters. I don't know what those guys operate in over there. I would say that it's yards. And then this is the one that gets me right here. Not the prone. The shot is taken from the prone. So you start standing, you got your rifle, you're ready to go, you're loaded, and then the buzzer goes off, you drop to the prone, and you take your shot, right? And you have to deploy your bipods on the clock. The problem is that for me, I'm not using I'm not using Harris bipods that you could just deploy and drop, right? I'm using either Atlas or MDT bipods. Now, the benefit to these bipods is they have a lot more different types of movement. The downside is that each leg has to be deployed independently. So it's going to take me 3 fucking seconds just to deploy 2 legs, let alone get down in the prone and try to take this shot. So I'm trying to, once we get to talk to him, maybe it'll just have to be a different episode, but I'm trying to talk him into like, hey, can we do like a modification? Because I really want to do this drill, but I know there's no possible way that I can do sub 3 seconds if I'm deploying bipods like mine, right? So you really have to have Harris bipods for this to be a thing for you.
And it sounds to me like this is really geared towards law enforcement military because, and it may not be, but I know that, we had a lot of discussions about what bipods we can run on the team. And, months of me trying to bring over some Atlas bipods. And the answer was always, no, deploy it in 5 seconds. Let me know how that works out for you. And I was like, well, I could try to pre-deploy it before we go out on patrol. Like, never mind.
While you're running to your position, you can be...
I can start doing this.
So I did scroll through the Ridgeline social media, and I found another video where I believe Alex's business partner, Rudy, drops into the prone and engages a target at like 300 with multiple strings of fire. And his bipods are already deployed. So I feel like I could possibly work this in somewhere where we could have the bipods deployed already. Again, it's just a cool drill. You can modify it however you want, right? But their drill is deploy the bipods on the clock. So
maybe the whole bipod thing is more of a guideline, not necessarily a rule.
Man, I wish we could get him on the damn video right now. All right, let's see here. Start share. Let me pull this video up. Where are you guys at? Where is the video? How am I always doing this?
I don't know. You screwed up the last one.
What are you talking about? I didn't screw up. It just wouldn't play. The computer is not cooperating. Can you see the video?
Yes.
All right. So this is a student of theirs, and he's about to run their drill. And you can see other students standing around in the background. Okay. Press play. That's pretty slick, right?
It's pretty fast.
So let me try to play it again. It kind of glitched on my side. I dig it, man. The student dropped down in position. You saw how fast he deployed those bipods.
Yeah.
Just wham, bipods are out, and he's down in position. One thing I would say is if you have the shorter version of the Harris bipods, it may not work for you if you're a bigger man, right? So things to think about. That could possibly force you into a bad position. But this student looked good. He dropped straight down. He's got good body position behind the rifle. Recoil management looked good, and he was on target. Boom, press a shot. He didn't quite make the 3 seconds, but he pretty damn close. He could.
Yeah, and that drill really cuts out all the bullshit, start to finish. You can either do it or you can't.
Yeah. So I tried to look for the video of the actual instructors doing it. I know that I've seen one of them, Alex or Rudy, do the drill, and they were sub 3 seconds. So it was pretty awesome. I just couldn't find the video to show everybody, but again, something to work for. And it does say yards on there, so it is a 300 target. You guys can try this on your own. You can, again, like if you're like me, I'm probably going to modify it to suit my bipods. And what I mean is I'm just going to start with my bipods already deployed. And maybe I'll try for a faster time to compensate for bipod deployment. I don't know. Maybe test my limits on how fast I can actually deploy the bipod. So instead of a 3 second time limit, could I make 4.5 seconds? That would be a question that I would have. And then could I do it with a bolt gun? I feel like I want to push the limits here and try to do this with a bolt gun. I don't know. Things to practice the next time I get to go to the range, which will be here in a few weeks. So maybe that's what me and you will do. When I come home in March, you and I will go to the range.
Yeah, let's run it. And that'll make me spend some time at the range working on this stuff.
We're just going to run this drill until our hands and knees are bloody or we've made the time, one of the two.
Sounds like a good day.
Or I'll steal your bipods so I can deploy them on the clock.
Yeah. I'll send you home with a set of arrows.
Hell yes. All right. Well, we didn't get Alex on the horn today. Was really hoping to get him on the chat to have a discussion with us. I'm going to keep all the notes so that we can bring him on the show at a future date and still ask him all the same questions. Some of it had to do with the drill, and some of it was just about his company and about him and his partner and what they have coming up, what their background is, how they got into this. I love hearing stories like that, and I've seen these guys train, and I respect what they do. And I feel like they're a company that I could put my support behind and say, I have trust and confidence that they're not teaching bullshit and that you're actually going to learn skills that will carry you to the next level. So before we go, just want to reiterate the 2 courses, right? We added them last minute. They are roughly a few weeks out. It will be March 11th for the barricade and alternate positions class, March 12th for the tripod class. You can find those on maxordinate.com. Don't forget our epic giveaway. Okay. We are still trying to buy your 5-star review. All right. It is still a thing.
We are.
Go on to either Apple Podcast or Spotify. Leave us a 5-star review, right? I don't care what you put in the comments, but the review has to be 5 stars. Okay. You can ask us a question in the review. You can say how bad we suck. You could say, Jeff needs to stop eating while we're on the show. You could say
snacks today.
You could say whatever you want, but it got to be a 5-star review, and you have to follow our social media account on Instagram. So we'll look at these reviews. We'll look at everybody that submitted that 5-star review, everybody that follows us, and we're going to pick 2 winners for hoodies, t-shirts, hats, the whole 9 yards, epic swag giveaway. I appreciate you guys listening. Everybody, you guys support us, and it doesn't go unnoticed. I watch the podcast numbers. I watch the YouTube video numbers, and I'm just blown away that many people want to tune in for the show and hear what we have to say. So,
and if you're watching on YouTube, go ahead and leave us a comment, like, follow, and you still can't subscribe. I don't know where we're at with that yet, but at some point you'll be able to. But yeah, definitely, engage with us in the comments and
absolutely.
Say hi.
Absolutely. For our VIP members, if you're looking to be a VIP member, patreon.com/maxordinate1. You can sign up there. You saw some of the PowerPoints that I was using to show you some of my videos. We'll be taking all of those presentations, and they will have me, little video box in the corner, going through each and every class that we utilize on the Patreon account so that you can reference that training material and use it as you see fit. So educational stuff, targets, special dry fire practices, things like that, you'll find them on the patreon.com. Outside of that, Jeff, I have nothing left. I appreciate you taking the time. I've been watching that clock now that I can see the whole damn thing.
You're welcome.
I think we're roughly over an hour of talk time.
Yeah, we're about 2 hours, but who's counting?
Okay, so I obviously stopped watching the clock. But anyways, Jeff, talk to you next time, man. A few
Good to
days.
see you, brother. Peace.
Later home.